single mom paid for a coffee for a strange man. The next morning, a helicopter landed at her house. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The rain fell hard that night, tapping against the glass of a small corner coffee shop that stayed open past midnight. The warm light inside spilled across the wet pavement, turning puddles into tiny mirrors. Behind the counter, the espresso machine hissed and sighed like it, too, was tired from a long day. A few late customers hunched over their cups, trying to escape the chill. At the back of the line stood Maya Lopez, 29 years old. Her dark hair pulled into a messy bun, her jacket 2 winters old and no longer warm. Her feet ached from cleaning hotel rooms all day, and she still had one more stop before going home to her daughter. In her wallet was one worn $10 bill. It was all she had until payday, but she needed a small cup of coffee to keep her awake for the long walk home. The door swung open, letting in a blast of cold air, and a man in a soaked gray hoodie. His hair dripped onto the floor as he patted his pockets, searching for something. When it was his turn at the register, he froze. "I am sorry," he murmured, voice low. "I thought I had my wallet." His hands trembled as he checked again, eyes filled with embarrassment. The cashier frowned. "No cash, no coffee." Maya watched him. There was something about the way he stood quiet, almost defeated, that stirred something inside her. Without thinking, she stepped forward and placed her $10 bill on the counter. "I will cover his coffee," she said softly. "No one should stand in the rain without warmth." The man turned, startled. His eyes, a striking blue under the dim light, met hers for a brief, searching moment. "You do not have to do that," he said. "I know," Maya replied, giving a small, tired smile. "But I want to. Coffee is not that expensive compared to faith." The cashier shrugged, rang it up, and handed him the cup. The man accepted it carefully, like it was more than just coffee. "Thank you," he whispered. "I promise I will find a way to repay you." Maya shook her head. "Just stay warm. That is enough." They shared a short silence. For a moment, the storm outside seemed to fade. Then the man turned and walked out into the rain, disappearing into the misty glow of the streetlights. The bell above the door chimed once, then stilled. Maya stood there, wondering why her chest felt both heavy and light. She looked at the empty doorway, then at the damp bill stub the cashier had left on the counter. On it was a name scribbled in rushed handwriting, J. Cole. She tucked the receipt into her coat pocket, not knowing why she kept it, only that it somehow felt important. When she stepped outside, the rain had softened to a mist. The city around her was quiet, painted silver under the streetlights. She pulled her thin jacket closer and began her walk home, her shoes slapping against puddles. By the time she reached the small row house she rented, her daughter, Ellie, was asleep on the couch, a blanket half covering her. Maya smiled faintly, brushed a strand of hair from the girl's forehead and whispered, "One day things will be better, I promise." She hung her coat on the hook and felt the paper slip from her pocket. The receipt fluttered to the floor. She bent to pick it up, looked at the smudged ink, and placed it carefully in the jar. She called her Hope Fund a collection of coins and old dreams. Outside, the wind howled again. Inside, a mother and her child slept in a room that smelled faintly of rain and coffee, unaware that a single act of kindness had already begun to change everything. The next morning arrived gray and heavy. Rainwater still glistened on the streets like scattered glass. Maya awoke before sunrise, the chill from the leaky window slipping across her small bedroom. Her daughter, Ellie, still slept, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit that had lost one of its button eyes. Maya brushed a strand of hair from the girl's forehead and whispered, "Sleep a little longer, sweetheart." The alarm clock blinked 6:30. Maya sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the numbers until they blurred. She took a deep breath, tied her hair back, and began another day of survival. The landlord had already left a note under her door, written in bold red ink. Final warning. Maya folded the note and slid it into a drawer, as if hiding it could make it disappear. She dressed quickly in her faded hotel uniform, then kissed Ellie's cheek. The little girl stirred. "Mommy, are you working again tonight?" Maya hesitated, forcing a smile. "Just for a few hours. Mrs. Parker will pick you up after school, all right? Be good." Ellie nodded sleepily. "Can we go to the park this weekend?" Maya's throat tightened. "If the weather is nice," she whispered. She did not tell her daughter that weekends had become her second job cleaning at the bakery downtown. Outside, the cold wind carried the smell of wet asphalt. Maya walked briskly to the bus stop, shoes squeaking from yesterday's rain. The city felt half awake, wrapped in a dull hum of traffic and distant sirens. She boarded the bus, paid her fare with coins, and sat near the back. The kitchen was barely large enough for two people to stand in. She brewed instant coffee and poured it into a cracked mug. The scent was thin and bitter, but it was warmth. From the counter, she grabbed a lunch bag with a peanut butter sandwich wrapped in wax paper and a small carton of milk for Ellie's school lunch. Then, she opened her wallet. Inside were 3 crumpled $1 bills and a handful of coins. Rent was due in 3 days. She changed sheets, polished mirrors, folded towels into neat triangles. Every motion was practiced, automatic, a rhythm that left no space for dreams. Around lunchtime, she sat on the housekeeping cart, eating a small piece of bread she had saved from breakfast. Through the window, she could see people in suits stepping out of shiny cars. They looked like they belonged to another world, a world she could only watch through glass. Her mind drifted back to the coffee shop, the man in the gray hoodie, his voice when he said, "I promise I will find a way to repay you." She wondered if he meant it or if it was just politeness. Either way, that night had stayed with her. The rest of the day passed in a blur of cleaning chemicals and exhaustion. By the time she clocked out, the sky was dark again. The bus was late, as always. She walked home instead, hands buried deep in her pockets. When she reached her neighborhood, she passed rows of small houses, some boarded up, some with Christmas lights still hanging, though the season had long ended. Mrs. Parker, the elderly neighbor who watched Ellie, opened the door when Maya knocked. "She's asleep already," the woman said kindly. "She did her homework and drew another picture for you." Maya smiled. "Thank you, Mrs. Parker. I owe you more than I can repay." "Just keep going," the woman said. "You are doing your best." "Oh." Inside, Maya found the drawing on the table. It showed a stick-figure woman handing a cup to another figure under a gray cloud. Above it, Ellie had written in crooked letters, "Mommy helping a stranger." Maya stared at the picture for a long time. Something about it made her chest ache with both pride and sadness. She placed it next to the glass jar labeled Hope Fund. The jar was half full of pennies, nickels, and one folded receipt from a late-night coffee shop. She touched the paper gently. "Faith," she whispered. "That is what coffee costs." Outside, thunder rolled faintly in the distance. Maya turned off the single lamp, curled up beside her sleeping daughter, and listened to the wind move through the broken shutters. Somewhere in the darkness, life was still hard, still uncertain, but she had kept her promise to stay kind, even when the world gave her nothing back. And yet, as she closed her eyes, she had no idea that the man from the coffee shop was not gone at all. He was searching for her, and by sunrise, the sound of his search would echo across the sky. The sun had barely climbed above the horizon when the sound reached her. It began as a faint vibration, a low hum that made the windows rattle. Maya was at the kitchen sink, rinsing a single cup while Ellie sat at the table drawing with her crayons. The sound grew louder, sharper, until even the dishes trembled in her hands. Ellie looked up, her eyes wide. "Mommy, is that thunder?" Maya started to answer, but stopped when a powerful gust of wind swept across the tiny yard, lifting dust and papers into the air. She stepped to the doorway, shielding her eyes from the sudden brightness. What she saw made her heart skip a beat. A large helicopter hovered above the row of houses, its blades slicing the morning air like silver knives. The wind from it roared through the neighborhood. Neighbors ran outside, some shouting, some filming with their phones. Maya clutched the doorway, confused and frightened. The helicopter descended into the vacant lot beside her house, shaking the ground beneath her feet. For a moment, it felt as if the world itself was spinning. The noise finally softened as the engine slowed, and the door of the aircraft opened. A man stepped out. He was dressed in a tailored gray suit, his shoes polished, his posture calm. He removed his sunglasses and looked directly at her. In that instant, Maya recognized him, the soaked stranger from the coffee shop. The man she had helped in the rain. Her breath caught. "It cannot be," she whispered. He walked toward her through the rising dust. His voice was clear, calm, and strangely familiar. "Good morning, Miss Lopez. You might not remember me, but I remember you." Maya's voice trembled. "You are the man from the coffee shop." He smiled faintly. "Yes, my name is Jacob Cole, and I believe I still owe you for that cup of coffee." The crowd gathered along the fence, murmuring with curiosity. A few children pointed at the helicopter, their laughter cutting through the noise. Maya stood frozen. She had no idea how to react. "You did not need to do this," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was just coffee. Anyone would have done the same." Jacob shook his head. "No, not everyone would have done the same. That night, you did not know me. You did not ask for anything in return. You gave the only $10 you had left. You reminded me of something I had forgotten." Ellie peeked from behind her mother's leg, her small hand gripping the edge of Maya's dress. "Mommy, who is he?" Jacob knelt to meet the little girl's eyes. "You must be Ellie. Your mother told me you like to draw." Ellie nodded shyly. "Are you a pilot?" Jacob smiled. "Not quite, but I do travel by helicopter sometimes." The little girl giggled. Maya wanted to pull her back inside, but something in Jacob's gentle tone stopped her. He was different now, composed, confident. Yet his eyes held the same quiet kindness she had seen that rainy night. "Why are you here?" Maya asked, her confusion growing. "What could you possibly want from us?" Jacob straightened, his voice soft but steady. "I want to thank you properly. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Cole Group, a company that builds housing and invests in community projects. I sometimes go out in disguise to understand how real people live, how they survive the struggles that my world often ignores. That night, I had nothing, no wallet, no name, no protection, and you gave without hesitation." The words felt unreal. Maya blinked, unable to process them. "You mean, you were pretending to be poor?" "I was learning," Jacob replied. "And you taught me more than anyone else could have. You showed me generosity in its truest form." The neighbors began whispering louder now. Someone shouted, "Is he serious?" Another said, "That is the Cole Group guy from television." Cameras flashed. Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. "Please," Jacob said gently. "Can we talk somewhere private?" Maya hesitated, glancing back at Ellie. Mrs. Parker, her elderly neighbor, stepped forward. "Go on, dear. I will watch the little one for a while." Maya knelt to Ellie's level. "Stay with Mrs. Parker, okay? I will be right back." Ellie nodded, though her eyes were still fixed on the shiny helicopter. Maya followed Jacob across the yard, every step feeling heavier than the last. When they reached the aircraft, he gestured toward the open door. "After you." She climbed in slowly, her heart pounding. The cabin smelled faintly of leather and jet fuel. The seats were soft, the space too luxurious for someone like her. Jacob sat across from her, fastening his seatbelt as the door closed. Through the window, Maya could see her neighborhood shrinking as the helicopter lifted off. The rooftops, the cracked sidewalks, the children waving, all of it fell away beneath them. "Where are we going?" she asked, gripping her seat tightly. Jacob looked at her, his expression calm but unreadable. "To my office downtown. I have something to show you, and an offer I hope you will hear before you say no." Maya's pulse thudded in her ears. "An offer?" He nodded once. "You will understand soon. But first, Miss Lopez, please know this. Your kindness that night did not go unnoticed. You changed more than one life, including mine." The city spread below them, sunlight glinting off the windows like shards of gold. Maya pressed her palm against the glass, watching the world blur beneath her. She could hardly believe that a $10 cup of coffee had brought a helicopter to her doorstep. And yet, somewhere deep inside, she felt the first small spark of something she had almost forgotten: hope. The helicopter sliced through the clouds until the city appeared below like a maze of shining steel and glass. Maya stared out the window, her hands gripping her seat. It felt unreal, as if she had been pulled out of her life and dropped into someone else's dream. The voice of the pilot came through the intercom, calm and steady. "Landing at Cole Tower in 5 minutes, sir." Maya turned to Jacob. "Cole Tower?" He nodded. "My company headquarters. It will be quieter there. I promise this will not take long." Her heart raced as the helicopter descended onto a rooftop helipad surrounded by skyscrapers. The door opened, and a rush of city air filled the cabin. Jacob offered his hand to help her down, but she hesitated before accepting it. The world around her shimmered with glass reflections, the traffic far below sounding like distant waves. Inside the building, polished marble floors stretched endlessly beneath soft lighting. People in tailored suits paused and whispered as they saw her. Maya kept her eyes low, afraid of every glance. Jacob walked beside her, calm and confident, greeting his staff with quiet nods. They entered an elevator that rose to the top floor. The doors opened into an office larger than her entire home. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the skyline. On the desk sat a small vase with white lilies, a simple contrast to the luxury surrounding it. Jacob gestured for her to sit. "Please, Miss Lopez. I know this must feel overwhelming." Maya sat stiffly on the edge of a leather chair. "Overwhelming is one word for it," she said softly. "Why am I here?" Jacob leaned forward. "Because I want to offer you something real. Last month, my company started a project called Open Grounds. We are rebuilding several low-income neighborhoods into affordable communities. We need people who understand the real struggles, people who have lived through them. I want you to help lead that project." Maya blinked, stunned. "Me? I clean hotel rooms. I do not have a degree. I do not know anything about business." Jacob smiled gently. "You know compassion. You know survival. You know what it means to keep faith when the world gives you nothing. That is what this project needs most." She shook her head, her fingers twisting together. "This does not make sense. You do not even know me." "I know enough," Jacob replied. "You gave me kindness when you had nothing to gain. You did not see a stranger. You saw a person. That is leadership, Maya. The kind I have been missing in my own world." Maya looked down at her hands. "I do not belong here. People like me do not walk through marble halls. They clean them." Jacob's tone softened. "Then maybe it is time to change that." He reached into a folder and slid a document across the desk. "This is a contract. It includes a salary, health insurance for you and your daughter, and housing in the new community once construction begins. All I ask is that you meet with my team and share your perspective." She stared at the paper, words blurring together. Salary, health insurance, housing, things she had only dreamed of. Her breath caught. "Why are you doing this?" "Because good people deserve a chance," Jacob said simply. "And because you reminded me that wealth means nothing if it cannot lift someone else up." Silence filled the room. Outside, clouds drifted past the windows like slow ships. Maya's thoughts swirled. Ellie's face flashed in her mind, her laughter, her drawings, her questions about the park. The promise of a better life shimmered before her, but so did fear. "I need time," she whispered. "I need to think." Jacob nodded with understanding. "Of course. Take all the time you need. I will send a car for you tomorrow. You can visit the construction site, meet the people working there, then decide." He stood and extended his hand again. "No pressure, Maya. Just opportunity." She rose slowly, shook his hand, and felt the quiet strength in his grip. When he led her back to the elevator, she looked once more at the skyline outside the glass walls. It seemed impossibly far from the cracked sidewalks of her neighborhood. As the helicopter carried her home, Maya stared at the fading city lights below. She held the folder tightly against her chest. Somewhere deep inside, hope stirred, but so did doubt. Could kindness really change a life? Could a simple cup of coffee truly lead to something this big? She looked out at the clouds glowing orange in the setting sun and whispered to herself, "Maybe it can." That night, sleep refused to come. Maya lay awake listening to the ticking clock and the soft sound of Ellie's breathing beside her. The folder Jacob had given her rested on the nightstand, its papers still untouched. The words he had said replayed in her mind. Good people deserve a chance. It sounded too good to be true. By morning, the neighborhood buzzed with whispers. Mrs. Parker was watering her plants when Maya stepped outside. "Child, I saw that helicopter yesterday," the old woman said. Half the town did. What on earth happened? Maya hesitated. It was an offer. A strange one. He wants me to work for him. Mrs. Parker raised an eyebrow. Work for that fancy company man? Be careful, dear. The rich rarely do anything without reason. Maya nodded, forcing a smile, though worry pressed heavy in her chest. She walked Ellie to school, holding her daughter's hand the entire way. At the gate, Ellie looked up. Mommy, will we ever live somewhere with a yard and trees? Maya swallowed hard. Maybe someday, sweetheart. Maybe soon. Later that afternoon, a sleek black car stopped in front of her house. The driver stepped out and opened the door for her. Miss Lopez, Mr. Cole is expecting you. Maya's stomach tightened, but she climbed in. The ride to the city felt endless. When they arrived, Jacob greeted her at the construction site of what would soon be the open grounds community. The air smelled of concrete and dust. Workers moved like ants around steel beams. Jacob handed her a hard hat. Welcome to where your story meets ours, he said with a quiet smile. As they walked through the site, he explained how each building would hold affordable apartments, daycare centers, and green parks. We are building more than homes, he said. We are building second chances. Maya listened, impressed yet cautious. Cameras followed them. Journalists snapped photos from a distance. She could hear murmurs, some admiring, others skeptical. A woman in a blue suit approached Jacob. Sir, the board is waiting for your approval on the next phase. Her eyes flicked to Maya, disapproval written across her face. And this is? Jacob replied evenly. Miss Lopez. She will be part of the leadership team. The woman's polite smile did not reach her eyes. Of course. As she turned away, Maya caught her whispering to another staff member. She did not need to hear the words to understand they were wondering who the cleaning woman was and why she stood beside their boss. Her face burned with embarrassment. She tugged at the hem of her worn jacket. Mr. Cole, she said softly, I do not think I belong here. People are staring. Jacob stopped walking and looked at her. They are staring because they do not yet understand. You belong here more than anyone. His words were kind, but the doubt remained. When the tour ended, he escorted her to the car. Before she left, he said, Do not let them decide your worth, Maya. Let your actions speak. That evening, news articles appeared online. Mysterious woman visits coal project, who is she? Some praised Jacob for helping a single mother. Others mocked the story as a publicity stunt. Maya turned off her phone. The world of the wealthy felt distant and cold. Yet Ellie's laughter that night filled the house with warmth. Her daughter held up another drawing, this time of a tall building surrounded by trees. Look, Mommy, that is our new home someday. Maya hugged her tightly, tears stinging her eyes. Maybe, my love, maybe someday soon. But deep down, she could not shake the feeling that the line between kindness and exposure was beginning to blur, and that the real test had only just begun. The next few weeks passed like a blur. Maya began spending her mornings at the construction site, learning from engineers, social workers, and architects. Every day, she carried a small notebook where she wrote ideas and questions: how to make the playground safer, how to design a daycare that felt like home. Though she felt out of place among professionals in crisp suits, she refused to back down. Jacob visited often, sometimes walking beside her in his rolled-up sleeves, listening more than he spoke. He asked about her neighborhood, about the families she knew, about what truly made people feel safe. Maya noticed how different he was when he was away from the cameras, less like a man who owned half the city and more like someone searching for meaning. One afternoon, they stood on the unfinished rooftop, looking out over the city. The wind tugged at Maya's hair as she turned to him. Why me, Jacob? You could have chosen anyone, someone educated, someone who fits your world. Ugh. Jacob smiled faintly. Because you see what most people overlook. You remind me why this company was created in the first place. My father built towers, but he forgot about people. I will not make the same mistake. His honesty disarmed her. For a moment, they simply stood there, the noise of the city humming below them. Then he said quietly, I would like to show you something. He led her down a hallway into a small office where blueprints covered the walls. In the center of the table lay a sketch labeled Phase 2. Community Program. This will be your project, he said. A job. Training center for single parents. You will oversee it. Maya's eyes widened. Me? I have never managed anything in my life. Jacob's voice was gentle but firm. You manage your life every single day. You make something out of nothing. That is harder than running any company. She wanted to protest, but emotion caught in her throat. No one had ever believed in her that way before. When she returned home that evening, Ellie ran into her arms, chattering about her school day. Maya laughed, spinning her daughter around until they both collapsed onto the couch. For the first time in years, she felt something close to peace. But not everyone shared her happiness. The next morning, a sleek car pulled up outside the construction site. The woman in the blue suit, the same one who had looked down on her before, stepped out holding a folder. Her name was Clara Jensen, Cole Group's vice president. Clara's smile was sharp. Miss Lopez, Mr. Cole speaks highly of you. But let me be clear. Around here, trust is earned. People will talk. They already do. Maya met her gaze calmly. Then let them. I am here to work, not to gossip. Clara's eyes narrowed. I hope you remember that Mr. Cole can be impulsive. Do not give anyone a reason to question his judgment. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking like a metronome of warning. Later that day, Jacob found Maya reviewing plans at the site office. Is everything all right? He asked. She hesitated, then smiled faintly. Yes, I am just learning how different this world is. He studied her for a moment, then said softly, Do not let them make you doubt yourself. You are exactly where you are meant to be. Maya looked up from the blueprints, the light catching the edge of her smile. I hope you are right. As Jacob walked away, Maya glanced down at the paper beneath her hands. It was a map of the future, her future, perhaps, but shadows of doubt still lingered at the edge of every line. She wanted to believe that kindness could build something lasting, yet somewhere deep inside, she could feel the tension growing, quiet but certain, like thunder before a storm. The storm arrived quietly, not with thunder or rain, but with headlines. One morning, as Maya was reviewing the training center layout, her phone buzzed nonstop. She hesitated before opening the messages. The first one froze her in place, an article with a bold title, CEO's Secret Relationship with Single Mother is Charity Just a Cover. Beneath it was a picture of her standing beside Jacob at the construction site, smiling awkwardly. Her stomach twisted. Comment sections were already full of speculation. Some called her an opportunist, others accused her of manipulating Jacob for fame. Maya felt her breath grow shallow. She set the phone down, but the words burned into her mind. A knock came at the door. Clara Jensen entered without waiting for permission, holding a printed copy of the same article. Miss Lopez, she said sharply. Care to explain this? Maya stood, trying to keep her voice steady. There is nothing to explain. The journalist twisted everything. Mr. Cole only offered me a job. Clara's expression was cold. The board is furious. They think this project is turning into a scandal. They believe you are a distraction he cannot afford. That is not fair, Maya whispered. I have done nothing wrong. Fairness has little to do with business, Clara replied. You should resign before things get worse. For everyone. Maya's chest tightened. I will not quit. This work matters. No. Clara's tone softened, though her eyes did not. Then at least stay out of sight until we clean this up. She turned and left, her heels echoing down the hallway. When Jacob arrived later that day, his face was tense. Maya, do not read the news, he said quietly. They will print anything for clicks. I already did, she answered, her voice breaking. They are calling me names I cannot even repeat. They say you hired me because you pity me. Lo. Jacob exhaled heavily, running a hand through his hair. I should have seen this coming. I am sorry, Maya. I will handle it. How? She asked, tears filling her eyes. By firing me so they stop talking? He stepped closer, his tone firm. No. By telling the truth. By showing them who you really are. But the damage was already spreading. Within days, sponsors threatened to withdraw from the project. Reporters camped outside her house, shouting questions. Mrs. Parker kept Ellie inside, but even the little girl noticed. Mommy, why are people taking pictures of our home? Maya knelt, forcing a calm smile. Because sometimes people do not understand kindness, sweetie. But we will be all right. That night, Jacob called her. His voice was low and tired. The board is calling an emergency meeting tomorrow. They want me to step back from the project until this settles. Her heart sank. That means they win, Jacob. They will ruin everything you built. He paused. Maybe not everything. Maybe just me. The line went silent for a long time before he spoke again. Maya, I need you to trust me. Whatever happens tomorrow, do not lose faith in what we started. After he hung up, Maya sat alone by the window, watching city lights flicker in the rain. Fear pressed against her ribs, but beneath it, a quiet resolve began to form. She had spent her whole life surviving storms. She would survive this one too. Somewhere in the distance, thunder finally rolled. It was soft, almost gentle, but she knew what it meant. The real storm was only beginning. The next morning began with gray skies and headlines even darker. News channels replayed footage of Jacob leaving the board meeting surrounded by security guards. Every reporter shouted questions, but he said nothing. The captions read, "Coal Group in crisis. CEO under fire for personal scandal." Oh. In her small kitchen, Maya watched in silence, her coffee untouched. Ellie sat at the table coloring, unaware of the chaos unfolding beyond their walls. Maya's phone rang, and her heart jumped when she saw Jacob's name. She answered quickly. "Are you all right?" His voice was rough, strained. "The board voted to suspend me temporarily. They say I have jeopardized the company's reputation, but I am not letting them destroy what we built." Maya's throat tightened. "Jacob, you should not fight them. They will only dig deeper. They already think." "I know what they think," he interrupted gently. "But truth has a way of finding light." That afternoon, Maya went to the site, even though she was advised to stay home. Construction had slowed. Workers glanced at her, but said nothing. She walked through the half-finished halls of the training center, her footsteps echoing on the concrete floor. She stopped at a window overlooking the city and whispered to herself, "Do not give up now." Behind her, a familiar voice said, "You came back." She turned to see Jacob standing in the doorway. His tie loosened, exhaustion etched into his face. "They told me to stay away," he said. "But I could not." "You should not be here," Maya said softly. "They will use it against you again." Jacob shook his head. "Let them. I am done hiding." He stepped closer, his eyes steady. "Do you know why I started Open Grounds? Not to build houses. To rebuild people's faith in second chances, in decency. And you reminded me that it still exists." Maya felt tears fill her eyes. "You are risking everything, Jacob." He smiled faintly. "Maybe everything is worth risking for something real." Before she could respond, Clara entered the room, her heels clicking sharply. "Mr. Cole, this has gone far enough," she said. "The media is tearing you apart. The board wants your resignation. If you care about this company, you will walk away now." Jacob faced her calmly. "And if I do not? Then they will destroy you," Clara warned. "And her." She pointed toward Maya. "You think they will let her live peacefully after this?" Maya's heart pounded. "Please, Jacob, do not fight them for me." He turned to her, his expression firm but gentle. "This is not just about you. It is about everyone like you. People who are kind, who go unseen, who deserve to be believed." Clara glared at him. "You are making a mistake." Jacob's tone was quiet but unwavering. The only mistake would be staying silent. That evening, he called a press conference on the steps of Cole Tower. Cameras flashed wildly as he stood before the crowd. Maya watched from home, clutching Ellie's hand. Jacob's voice carried over the noise. "Last month," he said, "a woman gave me a cup of coffee when I had nothing. She did not know who I was. She asked for nothing in return. That act of kindness reminded me that leadership is not about wealth, it is about humanity. I am proud to call her my partner in this mission, and I will not allow her to be shamed for doing what is right." The reporters shouted questions, but Jacob simply stepped down from the podium and walked away. At home, tears streamed down Maya's face. Ellie looked up at her mother and asked, "Mommy, did he tell the truth?" Maya smiled through her tears. "Yes, sweetheart, he did." For the first time in weeks, the tightness in her chest eased. The storm was not over, but light was breaking through the clouds. Truth had found its way to the surface, and with it, hope. Spring arrived early that year. The city, once buried in gray, began to bloom again with color. Construction at the open grounds community finally resumed. Children's laughter mixed with the sound of hammers and saws. The scandal that had once filled every headline slowly faded into yesterday's news. Maya stood in front of the new community cafe, its sign freshly painted, "Kind Grounds. Each cup equals one smile." She had built it with her own hands, and with the help of the very workers who once doubted her. The smell of fresh coffee drifted through the air, mingling with the soft music playing from an old radio. Ellie ran up to her, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. "Mommy, everyone is coming today, right?" Maya knelt to fix a loose ribbon in her daughter's hair. "Yes, sweetheart. Today is the grand opening." People began to gather in the courtyard, families, construction workers, neighbors, even some reporters. Among them was Jacob, dressed simply in a white shirt and rolled sleeves, smiling in a way that felt both humble and proud. When he approached, the crowd fell silent. "Miss Lopez," he said warmly, "you have turned a $10 act of kindness into a place that will serve thousands." Maya laughed softly. "It was never just about coffee, Jacob. It was about faith." He nodded, and that faith built this. He stepped aside, revealing a small frame he had been carrying. Inside it was the old receipt from that rainy night, the ink faded but still readable J. Cole, 1 coffee. Beneath it, he had engraved a few words. "Kindness is the beginning of everything." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "You kept it all this time," Jacob smiled. "It reminded me where this story began and what truly matters." He placed the frame in her hands, then reached into his pocket once more. From a small velvet box, he revealed a simple silver ring. The crowd gasped softly. "Life does not often give us second chances," Jacob said, his voice steady. "But when it does, we should take them with gratitude." "Maya, will you share the rest of your story with me?" For a moment, the world seemed to stand still. Maya looked at him, at the man who had entered her life through a storm, who had seen her not as charity, but as equal. Then she smiled, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Yes, Jacob, I will." The crowd erupted in applause. Ellie clapped the loudest, jumping up and down, her laughter ringing through the courtyard. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low and the cafe lights flickered on, Maya sat outside with Jacob and Ellie. The city stretched before them, glowing in the soft light of dusk. Jacob lifted his cup of coffee and said, "To kindness that changes lives." Maya raised hers. "And to believing that one small act can change the world." They clinked their cups gently. For the first time in a long while, the air felt peaceful, full of promise. The camera of the mind would pull back slowly, showing the cafe standing strong in the middle of the new community, its sign glowing softly beneath the evening sky. And as the final light of day melted into the horizon, one truth lingered clear and quiet. Real wealth was never measured in money, but in the hearts we choose to lift along the way.